Hello friends, neighbors. John, your Whisky neighbor here. Welcome down the Nook. It's Sunday. But instead of a tasting, I just kind of want to talk about where I am on the channel with reviewing and talk a little bit about scoring and reviewing. So this is another whiskey conversation, which means you really need to pour something, relax, think about what I'm saying, disagree, agree, comment down below. That's the best part of what's going on. Just because it is a whiskey conversation, we're going to have some whiskey. I'm going to have this Worm Tub 10-year here. Bought a little while ago. I'll talk about it. I'll nose and taste, give you some thoughts. And I will once again bring up this Myleman Green port finished rye. So pour something in your glass. Think about how you score whiskey, and let's get into that conversation. 3, 4. Well, thanks for coming back. As I said, this is just a conversation, so I hope you got some whiskey. Otherwise, it's just not all that interesting. I'm going to first be sipping this. This is Worm Tub 10, and if I remember, I have no idea what it is. Natural color, cask strength, sherry cask finish. It is a Speyside Scotch. What Scotch it is, I have no idea. I will say if you see this in your neighborhood and you like sherried Scotch, this is a good deal. I've seen it as low as 70, as high as 90. This is Canadian dollars, but for a cask strength like 56.1, something like that. You don't have to wait around to find out if I like Worm Tub 10. I do. When this runs out, I'll look for a replacement and give her a go. So, how do I know I like a Scotch? I have been doing a lot of openings, and actually I want to address that first. A viewer said, John, I know it's not your style to take notes and review and share. And I was like, whoa, I thought that was my style. And I looked back and I realized this past year, I have spent way more time opening bottles and first impressioning and doing some live conversations. And there's a reason for that. This Worm Tub 10 is thick, it's raisin, it's leathered, it's prune, pithy. I like that. I like dark, a little char, a little old. Sláinte. All the sherry. I know it says finish. If you told me this was 10-year aged in sherry, I believe you. Now, I don't know if that's at 56%, kicking all those flavors up a notch, but ginger, light orange peel. All the resin is thick, darker. Oloroso's not PX. What else would tell you we're in deep, thick, leathered sherry? A little bit like Caledonia 12 from Edredar. Not maybe as good, but pretty darn close. So I have been doing openings and sharings and talkings and first tastings because I've received a lot of whiskey. And I want to tell you that I always want to tell you when I like a whiskey and when I don't. And in first opening, if I don't like a whiskey, I do tell you that. And I have hurt some of my new relationships with new distillers by saying, it's not that good. That's tough. But I always want you to know what I think. And that's it, though. That's just me. That's my personal opinion. You and I can disagree, no problem. Taste is obviously personal. But to review a whiskey, you got to spend a ton of time with it. And one of my problems is when I review some of these early whiskeys, these new releases, these younger distilleries, they don't stack up. I brought you my tasting book from Whiskey Exchange, and it's fun because it's got glossary, it's got how to taste, and it uses what I think is a pretty common tasting scale, and that's the 100 points. And you've got nose, palate, finish, and then it's either balance or overall impression. And each one of those is out of 25, and you score it all up to 100, which is a lot of points. But I challenge you, go look at YouTube, go read magazines. As I said with reviewers, go check out the whiskey. You'd be hard-pressed to find whiskey below 70. I honestly have a hard time finding whiskey below 80. And almost all whiskey that I drink starts like 85 to 97. And I think Well, that's a misuse of a 100-point scale, which actually is why I did something different. I thought, you know what? I'm just going to do a 5-point scale where 2 is an absolute drain pour, 3 is fine, 4 is solid, and 5 is insane. But over the years, that's changed too. So, I do want to talk about my scoring for Worm Tub. So with this one, if I go to my notes, I'm not going to find it in the book. If I go to my notes, the review on this actually has just about everything I tasted there. It's got some bitterness. It's got some coffee notes. It's got a little bit of aggressiveness. It's got not as many layers as almost I just said with you. That's the critique. And so when I review this, it sits up for my scale at about 3 3/4, just under 4. I can say 4 in a good day because of value. That's also in my scoring system. But that's 80. And according to what I've seen about so many others, like this is a solid 85. Easy. 80 is too low from that 100-point scale that I just see out there. This is an affordable, great Scotch. I don't know if I finished my thoughts, but that's why I did a 5-point scale and a little bit why I've been doing more first openings. Well, I certainly lost my train of thought. And I did more than I wanted to with that first bottle. I wanted to talk the first bottle about reviews and a little bit more about my scale and a little bit more why I'm doing more opening and tastings. And I still do reviews and I still do very critical things, but why I haven't done them much in the last year. And that's because lots of people have been sending me whiskey and I want to encourage them to keep going. And I don't want to be too discouraging with a critical review. That said, I want to talk about my lemon green, and I'll talk again because I already did about grade point scales. It's not grade point. I'm an educator. I mean, just point scales. This is my lemon green. And I don't know if this is showing on there or not, but there's a tag on there that says, 97 points. 97 points. Like 97 points is insane. 97 points by, I don't know, wine enthusiast, whoever that is. Like, to get 97 points, it's nearly a perfect whiskey. I mentioned, like, the nose, the palate, the finish, your overall impression or balance need to be like, 24 all the way across and one of them at 25. That's monstrous. And it's difficult. But then I think of my own scale, my 5-point scale, and I have given whiskeys a 5, which is 100 points. Now that's interesting. Let's talk my lemon green. This is fresh, minty, spicy. It's already got some red wine notes from that port. I don't get chocolate on the nose. Oh, but it's a rye through and through. Cheers. My palate sings with this. I've got all those punchy rye notes, bit of grass, bit of menthol, bit of all those things. Then it's peppery and spicy, and I'm not falling asleep drinking this. And then it's drying on the back end, a little bit of oak, tons of red wine, port. Again, not as much chocolate on this, but fullness, sweet, chewy. I love this. And my notes, as I pick it apart, and I've been back, and this is my 3rd bottle, I think, of this over the years. Like, I know this rye for my palate, and it's a solid 4 1/4. 4 1/4 on my scale is phenomenal. But that's only like, 4 1/2 would be 90. I'll bump it up to 4 1/2. That'd be 90. 97 points. Wow. That's a near perfect score. And maybe it is. But I struggle with the 100-point scale because there's nothing below 75, 80, to be honest, maybe 80. And then I see a lot that go all the way up to, 97, 98. So even though we say it's a 100-point scale, it's at most a 20-point scale. And I mean that. Like, I go to any reviewer or any magazine, and if you see the whiskeys they're drinking, like, you're going to see maybe a 20-point scale, which brings it back to mine because I do quarters and halves, very similar to the 5-point or 10-point. And it's One of the reasons why I did that, because I just wanted to be different than we see these in whiskey stores all the time. 97, 98, 96, 93. And I have to say, I still pay attention, and I shouldn't, but I do. I don't know who this group is. I don't know what their credibility is. And I actually don't even know if they're doing the standard like the Whiskey Exchange, 25, 25, 25, 25. They could be. I've seen scores that will double the palate and then do just nose and finish. I've seen scores that like do other things too, and it all comes out 100 points. That's wild. So scoring systems, I've said before, I personally value them when I'm watching someone I've seen before, when I'm reading someone I've read before, because now I know the context. Just like if you've been watching me, you know that John pretty much rates whiskey from 3.25 is pretty poor, 4.5 is amazing. When I first started, I gave a few more 5s out there. I cannot recall the last 5. But that's me. If I ever say 2.5, it's a drain pour, never buy it ever. I don't care what it is, never buy it. If you align with my tastes. If we totally disagree, but at least you know. And that's what I want to tell you. Get to know the people you're talking about. Get to know the magazines you're reading. Look at the way they do it, and then you've got a bit more of context. Even, Whiskey Advocate, I love that magazine. I enjoy reading it, but I actually pay attention to the specific reviewer, the people involved, because each one of them is different. Even though they use the same scoring system, no way. I've already been able to detect what I feel is a bias. Thanks for joining me here. Tell me what you think of Worm Tub 10. Tell me what you think of Milam and Green Rye. Tell me what you think of reviewing systems. Tell me what you think of scoring systems. Tell me how we can all be better and standardized. You know what? Tell me anything. I love the conversation. And just for the few people that have said, John, you don't do reviews as much anymore, you're right. I didn't realize that. And I'll try to get into some more critical reviews with some deeper reflective thoughts. And I guess I'll go back to a starring system. I just also kind of gave it up because I thought, let's just share notes and leave the stars or points to someone else. Hope you're having a good week. Cheers.